everybody, welcome back to Wow Mom Cooking. Today is another holiday edition. We are going to be making a fabulous cheesecake that you can take for dessert somewhere, freeze as well, or you can take it fresh. It's going to have some beautiful lemon zest in it and going to taste delicious. So grab your pens, your papers, and your aprons, and let's get cooking with Wow. For our fabulous lemon zest cheesecake, the first thing we need to do is line the pan with parchment paper. I use an 8-inch spring pan. You could use a 9-inch. If you don't have an 8-inch, that's fine. This just makes it a little thicker, and I like it that way. We put the parchment paper on the bottom and up the sides. That way we can take it out of the spring pan, off of the bottom, and put it onto a beautiful plate to serve it with later. So that's done. We're going to set it aside. The next thing we need to do is make our crust. Our crust is going to be made with vanilla wafers, melted butter, about a half a cup of roasted almonds, about a half a cup of sugar, and we're going to put it all together, bake that before we go on to the next thing. We're going to do this the fun way because I want to show you how you can include your kids for this. We're going to take our box of wafers, and you might notice I have 2 of these bags out here. Dump everything into one of them. Seal it up. And then I'm going to put all of this into the other bag. That way we don't lose it, we don't have crumbs everywhere. Because what we're going to do is, instead of doing these in a food processor, we're also going to add our almonds. We're going to crush these just like they are in this bag. All right. Seal up one, get all the air out, and seal up the second one, getting all of the air out. And you can do this with your hands, just to get it started. Then, get out your rolling pin. This is a fabulous way to crush these up. It works great, your kids will love it, and then everyone can be part of this recipe. You can definitely pop these into your food processor and do it that way too. You want to get it to make a fine crumbs. So as you go, you have to stop once in a while, make sure there aren't some big pieces. Keep smashing them up. And you can start to see it's turning into what looks like breadcrumbs, but they're cookie crumbs. And they're also incorporating our almonds in here. They're smashing those a little bit more. You can either buy them roasted or roast them yourself. I roasted these ones myself. I got a half a cup of almonds. I chopped them pretty finely. And you can do it 2 ways. You can either do them in the oven or you can do them on the stovetop. I did them on the stovetop this time. Put a little bit of lemon flavored olive oil in the pan because we're making a lemon cheesecake. Tossed them until they started to brown a little bit, and then took them off to cool so that they wouldn't be hot when we put all of our crust mix together. Now you can see it only takes a few minutes to do it this way. If my kids were here, they would have fun doing it like this too. But since it is the holiday time, you know, it's fun to find ways to do things that include everybody in the family and not just eating the food you make, because they're always included in that. Okay. We're getting really close to the kind of consistency we need everything to be. Take it and knead it real good. See if I have any big chunks in there. You can also use a meat tenderizer. Usually there's a flat side on one of it, and then it's got, the other side has little bumps in it to make it so you can do it either way. You could use that too if you needed to, couldn't find a rolling pin or you don't have one. All kinds of different ways you can do this. You can just put them in the bag and keep squishing them until they're where you need them to be. Okay, these look just about perfect. Let's take one more look. Let's see, don't seem to have any holes, that's good. So we can check this bag. Those look delicious, they look great. They look kind of like breadcrumbs, but they're made out of cookies, just like we said. So now we're gonna put these into our bowl. Perfect. Got a little bit of chunks of the almond in there. We're gonna add the sugar in first. Make sure everything is mixed really well. Now you could do these with graham crackers. You could do this with a chocolate cookie. I wouldn't recommend the kind that has filling inside because you don't want the filling. You just want the cookie crust itself. You could also do this with like shortbread cookies. That would be good too. So let's see. Okay, now that we have this all mixed in, we're gonna drizzle our butter. It takes about 4 tablespoons of butter to do this much. I melted about 6 tablespoons. We probably won't use it all, just in case the cookies seem to be a little bit drier for some reason. So we're gonna start drizzling this in. It's our melted butter. And get it to just mix up in there. We want everything to just get moist because we're gonna press this into the bottom of our cake pan. So once we get most of the butter in there, probably gonna use our hands to do the rest. We want it to start to stick together. Okay, let's see how that does. Looks like it's starting to make little clumps. You can see here they are here. So we need to get that to stick together when it bakes. So we're gonna bake this crust before we do the rest. Only takes about 8 minutes to bake the crust because we just want it to stick together. It'll bake more while the actual cheesecake is baking. Yes, this is a baked cheesecake recipe. We're gonna go ahead and use all 6 tablespoons of this butter. Cookies may have been a little drier than normal, maybe a little drier in the air right now. It's always okay to adjust. Okay, now that we have it pretty well mixed, I'm gonna use my hands. See how it starts to stick together like that? That's just about perfect. Let's just make sure we didn't miss anything. Okay, we're gonna move all of this into the bottom of our cake pan. We're gonna press it in firmly so it stays together, and then we're gonna move on to making our filling. So we're gonna spread this evenly across the bottom. We're gonna have a little bit thicker crust than I don't know, than the store-bought maybe, but I like to have a little bit of that in there too. Let's see, because I like to press it down and actually make it stick fairly well. Probably ends up being maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. Like I said, there's enough in here to do a 9-inch pan also, so it'd be a little bit thinner if you did a 9-inch pan. I just prefer to have a thick crust with a thick cheesecake. Usually on cheesecake you eat kind of a small piece anyway, so why not get a little bit more of everything in your bite? Okay, have it just about pressed down here. Show you what that looks like, and then I'm gonna go pop this in the oven. That's what you got. When it comes out of the oven, it'll be just slightly brown. Like I said, we're only gonna put it in for about 8 minutes, and then we're gonna move on to our filling. Our yummy delicious crust is in the oven cooking. It takes about 8 minutes, so we're gonna get started on our filling. We are going to be making a mascarpone lemon zest cheesecake. A little different probably than most people have made. Mascarpone is just an Italian style cream cheese, so we're gonna use both. We're gonna use 3 containers of the mascarpone cheese. These are 8 ounces. And we're going to use 2 packages of regular Philadelphia cream cheese. You can get the mascarpone cheese anywhere. It's available at your regular grocery store. It's also available at specialty stores. Doesn't matter what kind you want to use. Any brand is fine. Okay. Now let's get our cream cheese in there. You want to make sure this is all at room temperature. That's the fun part with getting the cream cheese off of the package. Sometimes that can be a little challenging. We'll see how it does this time. Okay. Looks like it's going to cooperate. Yay! After we get all this cheese in there, we are going to add the zest of 1 lemon. We're also going to add a teaspoon of lemon extract and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Real vanilla extract, not the imitation kind. After we blend all of that up, then we'll move on to adding our eggs in. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna mix this just a little bit because we wanna make sure that everything else incorporates into the flavors we have here, because we also have 1.5 cups of sugar that we need to add to this mix. So we're gonna put about a teaspoon of this lemon extract in here and about a teaspoon of the vanilla. We are using the Mexican vanilla that we picked up at the Gourmet Expo, and using it for our first time out of this batch. It's delicious. I've had it before, and it's going to add a great flavor to this. We're going to zest our lemon here with our microplaner. We're just going to go quickly over the whole lemon. Now remember, when you're doing this, we just want the part that's yellow. It smells so good. Once you get to that white part, you move on to the next part of your lemon. And we'll set it aside for our daily tidbit, where we put the lemon juice into the ice trays and use those for later. Let's see, that's just about it. When you're going to use the zest of a lemon too, you also want to make sure that the lemon is very ripe. You don't want a lemon that's almost ripe or not quite ripe or overripe even, because you want to have that delicious flavor and color and smell that a ripe lemon will give you. So let's just stir this up a little bit. There we go. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to get my blender and we're going to start blending this together. We will start out on low. Get all this cheese in there. We will start out on low, start blending a little bit of it in there, and then add some of the sugar. You can see it kind of looks like frosting already, and I'm sure it tastes delicious and would be great on a lemon poppy seed muffin or a lemon poppy seed bagel. Would be so delicious. But we're going to sweeten it and make this into a cheesecake. So we're going to turn it back on and pour the sugar in just a little bit at a time. Once we get all this sugar blended in there, we're gonna stop, scrape down the sides, and then we will blend it some more. We just wanna make sure we don't have anything on the side that's not getting blended. Okay. Now I can see there's a little bit of the sugar that's hanging out up here at the top on the sides. So we're gonna scrape everything down. It's already getting nice and smooth. And we're gonna blend it some more. After we get it blended up a little bit more, we're gonna taste it, because remember, tasting as you go, make sure that you know it tastes like it should and it's being delicious. The other thing is we wanna taste this before we add our raw eggs, because the eggs are room temperature, they've been sitting out of the refrigerator, you don't wanna go ahead and taste those. So we'll taste this before we add the eggs and before we bake it. Okay, that looks just about right. Doesn't take long, you just want to blend everything and make sure everything's incorporated and smooth, but we are going to taste this. Let's see. You can see it looks creamy, it looks delicious, it looks like a nice buttermilk, or not buttermilk, it looks like a cream cheese frosting, and that's kind of what it should taste like with the sugar and everything else. So let's give it a go. That is delicious. It has just a hint of lemon, which is exactly what we want. So what we're gonna do now is one by one, we're gonna add in the eggs, but I do wanna talk to you about eggs for a second. Most recipes call for large eggs. Now all 4 of these eggs, they look like they're different sizes. They're exactly the same egg. They are all an extra large egg. This big huge egg and this little tiny egg are extra large eggs. Eggs are done by weight. Some people don't realize that, and it makes a difference in your recipe. Now I always have extra large eggs on hand, and since that's what I have, instead of using 4 large eggs, I'm gonna be using 3 extra large eggs. I was just cut back a little just because I don't wanna overdo it. So before we do the eggs, we're gonna check on our crust because it should be just about done. Take it out and let it cool before we put our mix in. Well, here's our crust out of the oven. You can see it's just slightly brown. We're gonna let this cool while we finish our filling, and then we'll put them all together once the crust is completely cooled. Okay. One by one, we're gonna add these eggs in. We want them to blend really well, and we don't want little chunks of egg anywhere. So I'm gonna turn this back on, we'll start mixing it, and then I'm gonna add the first egg in. Completely blend every single egg before we move on to the next one. Okay, I'm going to scrape down the sides too. We're going to add the next egg in and then continue blending. There we go. See that stubborn little yolk? We don't want that to do that, so we're going to make it get in there. There we go. Now you can see as you're blending, the egg is a little shinier than everything else. So once everything's the same color again, then you know you've got it all. Scrape the sides one more time because I can see our stubborn little egg decided to climb up on the side of our bowl. But we're going to make it be part of this cheesecake whether it wants to be or not. All right. Now we've got one more egg to go. beautiful. We're going to scrape the sides one more time. You can see that the batter has gotten a lot thinner. It's not sticking to the beaters as much. And you can see it's almost more like a cake consistency now. Still a little bit thicker than that, but really similar. Okay. We'll give it one more good blending and then we're going to pour it into our crust. All right, that is blended very nicely. I'm going to move our crust pan over. You can see it still looks just about like it did when we took it out of the oven. It's just that nice light golden brown. We're going to pour all of this in here. Going to adjust our parchment paper a little bit to make sure it stays where it's supposed to. The reason I did the 8-inch pan instead of the 9-inch pan this time is I have a specific plate that I want to put this on for an event that I'm going to. The plate itself is only about 9 inches and I need a little room on the outside to put some garnish. So that's why we're making a smaller one this time. You can make any size you want. You could also do this in cupcakes. It's really delicious. Just put a little bit of the crust in the bottom of each cupcake pan or each cupcake muffin or cupcake paper. Brown them just like you did this, add the filling and bake them, but you bake them a little bit less time and you just have to kind of keep your eyes on them. Depends on how big you make each cupcake. Okay, now doesn't that look delicious? This is going to come very close to filling our pan. Like I said, this is a thick cheesecake for this time. You don't have to make it thick like I did, you can make it thinner. But this is going to be fabulous. And again, this looks delicious, but I do not recommend that you eat the batter. We've got raw eggs that had to come to room temperature just like everything else to mix it together. You can definitely smell the lemon. It's not overwhelming. And when I tasted it, it's not an overpowering taste, but you can definitely smell it. Okay. Whoops, got our batter in there. Now I want the top of this to come out smooth, so I'm gonna tap it a few times. To help smooth out that top. What we're gonna do next is we're going to put this into an oven at 325 for an hour and 12 minutes. The middle of it will still be a little bit jiggly, and that's okay, because what will happen is when you put it in the refrigerator to cool, it will firm up the rest of the way over the time it takes to cool. You want to cool it for a minimum of 1 hour. The best is at least 8 hours. Do it overnight. Do it the night before. You can also freeze it. These freeze wonderfully, so whatever you'd like to do. First, right now, we're going to go and head it and put it into the oven. All right, we just took this beautiful cheesecake out of the oven. It's going to take a long time to cool, but I want you to see that it still is a little bit jiggly. Hopefully you can see that moving a little bit. And that's fine. The middle should still be jiggly. It will never get 100% cooked. If it does, it's overcooked. It will harden up and, well, not harden up, but it will firm up while it's in the refrigerator cooking. You need at least 8 hours to cool this. So the best thing to do is make it the day before your event, stick it in your refrigerator, and serve it the next day. So we're gonna put this in our refrigerator, let it cool, and then we will remove the pan and show you what it looks like later, okay? So here we go. Okay, we've got our cheesecake out of the refrigerator. I added some whipped topping to the outside of it because I told you we're taking this to a special party. It's a blizzard party. You have to bring something that has to do with snow. Well, this is my version of cheesecake snow. And we're gonna have yellow snow, even though you're never supposed to eat yellow snow, on top of it. So we are going to zest a little bit of lemon right on top of here. Just so that everybody knows, this is a lemon snowball cheesecake. You can see that color is beautiful on the whipped topping. And we'll get just a little bit more on there. We'll stick it back in the fridge until we're ready to go. Make sure that the whipped topping is good and set. And then this is going to be a delicious, delicious lemon zest cheesecake. All right, see that? There you go. It's perfect, it's ready to go, and so am I. So I wanna say thank you for hanging with me on Wow Mom Cooking again today, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep on cooking with Wow.